Well, we knew this was coming. We would get some sort of reaction from people like Representative Tim Burchett and Avi Loeb regarding Sean Kirkpatrick's testimony before Congress last week. The director of AARO, of course, gave his briefing to Kirsten Gillibrand and Senator Ernst and told some big whoppers like there's no evidence that any of these objects had defied the known laws of physics. Now, this despite the fact that AARO is the successor program to AATIP, which developed the five observables, which were all 5 ways that these objects are truly anomalous and that they do defy the known laws of physics and behave in ways that we can't explain. So that was just on the face of it a lie, and he should know better because, of course, AARO has all the data from AATIP. And Gary Nolan has said that nobody knows more about UFOs than Sean Kirkpatrick. So he is just a disinfo agent. He is turning AARO into another Project Blue Book. And, I guess that shouldn't surprise anybody. But let's see what Tim Burchett and Avi Loeb has to say about this. So get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like. Please subscribe. Hit the bell to be notified of future videos. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you guys there. And, of course, comment below and let me know what you think. So let's first go to Tim Burchett. Let's see what he has to say.
U.S. government is investing.
This is a 5-minute clip. Let's just go right to his.
Thank you. Who is on the Congressional UFO panel. It's good to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, ma'am.
From what you're seeing, do you believe that a portion of these 650 cases actually originated from outer space?
I do. I think what the problem you have right now is we're asking the Pentagon to come forth with information that they've been covering up since at least 1947, the Roswell crash, and now they're going to.
I like how he says at least, acknowledging that this is going on before then, because of course the Trinity crash occurred before, I think in 1945. And we know that we acquired the Mussolini UFO in 1945 as well. So this has been going on since at least 1945. But if we were already acquiring UFOs in 45, then we probably already had some sort of program going, right? So, but it's really great that a sitting congressperson is acknowledging the possibility this is going on for a very long time.
Ask us for funding is what the Pentagon will do. That's their deal. You have one side saying they're saying publicly that this is coming from some mothership or something, and then another one saying we have no indication that this is coming from extraterrestrials. Well,
actually, it's the same side. It was Sean Kirkpatrick that said both of those things. He co-authored the paper with Avi Loeb that suggested that this all could be probes from a mothership. And at the same time, when it comes to the Congress, he says, aliens? What aliens? I don't know what you're talking about. There's no aliens here. AARO shouldn't exist. The whole goal of AARO is for AARO not to exist. So yeah, Sean is talking out of both sides of his mouth, but it's also important to highlight that even when he suggested the whole mothership idea, it was a way of de-escalating interest in UFOs and the phenomenon by saying this could all be drones or probes from a mothership that has since gone away. But at the hearing, or just after the hearing, he was asked about that, and he said there's no evidence for that. So, maybe that was more Avi Loeb's idea than Sean Kirkpatrick's. But either way, that paper was designed to dilute and diminish interest in the UAP topic.
Where else could it be? If it's not coming from China or Russia, they would own us if it was. And, I just don't trust the Pentagon. I don't trust them at all. They've been covering this thing up, and that's who we're relying on for information. I've said this once, and I'll say it again. The way we're going to get this thing resolved is somebody's going to come out with some undeniable information or, the location of a craft or some material that is extraterrestrial in nature or footage that will have to come out, and it'll have to be better than these infrared sightings that we've seen.
Okay, and help us understand, because you're privy to a lot more information, and you spend a lot of your time taking a look at this. What has you convinced that some of the 650 cases are actually extraterrestrials and not just drones or balloons, et cetera?
Well, I've talked to too many Navy pilots, Air Force pilots. These are the best pilots in the world, man. They're not flying some Cessna around. They're flying multi-million-dollar aircraft, and they tell me they can't keep up with these things. These things they defy every law of physics that we have. Literally, the G's that these things would turn you and me into literally a ketchup package. I mean, it would liquefy us. They fly underwater and they have no heat signal. It's more than anything that's being done on this planet. That's the only answer there is. We've recovered stuff in the past, and they just won't come forth with it now. And
Representative, I'm sorry, I just want you to speak to this video we're showing right now. I'm sorry for the interruption.
Yes,
you can
That's
see
right.
this small silver orb. This was caught by the
Right.
Pentagon. What is your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this video specifically?
I think that I don't know. For instance, on this one, I've seen this one. I believe it was taken in Iraq, I believe. I'm more familiar with the ones that are taken by our Navy out over the ocean.
A good question to ask would be, would Sean Kirkpatrick have released this video of the metallic orb if Jeremy Corbell hadn't released the pic of the still image from a video of a few seconds in length? If Jeremy Corbell hadn't released a still image from an extremely similar encounter. I think that, Sean Kirkpatrick was in part trying to take some of the wind out of Jeremy Corbell's sails, and also simply releasing footage that was essentially already out there. So it was no surprise and not that interesting, which of course is the whole point, right? He can pretend to be releasing footage, but in reality it's just stuff we already had. And at the same time, it takes a little wind out of Jeremy's sails. But I think Jeremy deserves some real props for putting that out there, because we wouldn't have gotten this video, I don't think, without Jeremy doing what he did. And, of course, that image probably came from Chris Mellon. So hats off to Chris as well, and George Knapp.
But that's consistent with a lot of them that we've seen, that there's no heat signal. There's no identifiable
No explanation.
markings on
I hear you, and I'm sorry, we're
No.
almost out of time, but let me ask you why the Pentagon is saying these sightings are concentrated off the east and west coast of the U.S., an area in the South China Sea in the Middle East. Has anything been revealed to your panel on why these sightings are concentrated to these areas? Is there just more surveillance in these areas, or is there anything to it?
We have military operations in those areas. I've talked to pilots who've stated that they go out on days on end and have these multiple sightings, and we've covered that up for quite some time now, and now it's starting to come forward, and the Pentagon's trying to play catch up, and the American public's not buying. They're just feeding us these little tidbits, ma'am. There's a lot more out there. They need to come forth with it. It is a complete cover up, and they won't even release the Kennedy files. There's nobody even alive that was involved in the Kennedy assassination.
That's because they're covering up for the CIA, my friend. All right, so there we have a sitting congressperson saying this is all a cover-up, essentially impugning Sean Kirkpatrick in his testimony before Congress, saying it's all a bunch of BS, and this is a cover-up that the Pentagon has been perpetuating for many, many years, and even before potentially 1947, which is really interesting that he went there. So here's what Avi Loeb said. Now it's important to remember that Avi Loeb is possibly an ally of Sean Kirkpatrick, and he co-wrote a scientific paper with Sean Kirkpatrick very recently. And, I've talked about that several times. And I'm not a big fan of that paper, but I am impressed that Avi Loeb, a very mainstream Harvard guy, has embraced the UFO topic and would even write a paper like that. So I have no problem with Avi writing that. I do have a problem with Sean Kirkpatrick using Avi Loeb to tamp down interest in the UFO topic and explain it away as potential drones, alien drones. Let's see. So here we go. This is an article that Avi wrote. I'm not going to read the whole thing. He goes through some of the history. He says UAPs cannot be ignored by the government because they may represent advanced technological capabilities of adversaries which pose national security threats. This was evident from Dr. Kirkpatrick's presentation, which revolved around these concerns. He noted that 650 reports are being studied by two teams within AARO, one led by intelligence experts and the other by scientists and engineers. For each UAP report, the inferences from the two teams are compared and vetted with the goal of transforming UAP to SEP, someone else's problem. And when Kirkpatrick made that joke in Congress, Senator Ernst laughed, egging him on, encouraging his deception. And also his weird assertion that the whole point of AARO is to not exist, to channel all these, because they can all be explained, all these events can be explained by mundane causes, is what Sean Kirkpatrick is saying. And these sightings should just go to the appropriate agencies to handle them. Say if it's an airplane or a drone, whatever, send it off to the person that should be handling airplanes and drones, human drones. So yeah, just Avi Loeb talks about what AARO is, how it works, various things. Sean Kirkpatrick said, he says, the best path forward on the scientific front is not to focus on past anecdotal data by classified government censors, as that pursued by AARO and the Senate subcommittee, but instead to collect new data. And this is precisely the mission of the Galileo Project observatories, the first of which is currently recording continuous data on the entire sky from Harvard University. So he's pimping his own project and building that up and comparing that to AARO, which he's saying is relying on past data and not new data. So I'm a little confused by that. I mean, the whole point of AARO is, not just to receive new data, old data, but also there is a new system in place to funnel new sightings to AARO, and that's kind of a big point of of AARO and the new organizational structure. So I'm a little confused by his comment there. But I think he's just, using that as a way to, boost his own project and say, well, this is what we're here. We have a new approach with new data. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I love Avi. I'm glad he's in the game. I think that once he gets far enough down the rabbit hole, he'll realize it's much weirder than conventional physics and mainstream, science can account for. But he'll get there in time. Sean knows better. Very important point. Well, within the coming years, talks about what the Galileo project is going to do. Kirkpatrick noted that NASA is conducting a parallel study. Yeah. Kirkpatrick even said if we find aliens, we're going to refer to NASA. Oh my God! I mean, that's the whole point of AARO, is to deal with this subject, not to funnel it off to someone else. So, Kirkpatrick, my God. Anyway, drives me nuts. I mean, he just, I know why he's there. I was about to ask, why is he in charge of AARO? But that's why he's in charge of AARO. Because he is a disinformation agent. That is his job with the control group or whoever the hell is doing this. But he is simply carrying on through the tradition of the U.S. government that they've been doing these many years and are still doing. From Grudge to Blue Book, Condon Report, all those guys, all those cases where the government was theoretically looking into this topic, and it was really simply designed to debunk the topic. And I had hoped that we had transcended that phase, but evidently not. Evidently, Lou Elizondo left the government and went public for nothing. We need a change of leadership at AARO. And, I don't know how that's possible, again, because Sean Kirkpatrick is serving other greater interests. How can those interests be persuaded to be more forthcoming, I think, is the question. So Dr. Kirkpatrick reiterated the need for evidence-based, rigorous scientific analysis. Of course, he did. Along these lines, I co-authored a joint paper with him last month that discusses the path forward using known physics in constraining the properties of UAPs. In the introduction section of our paper, we discussed hypothetical scenarios by which UAPs might represent small probes from an extraterrestrial technological origin. Humanity launched 5 probes, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So here we go. Let's just wrap it up. Scientific process takes much more time and effort than the speculation of believers, skeptics, bloggers, or science fiction writers. But this hard work is worth the wait. Our current assets in space would never reach their destinations if we relied merely on popular views from 4 centuries ago and kept avoiding the scientific method pioneered by Galileo. So he's basically just saying glowing things about Kirkpatrick and relating what he said and backing it up, and then contrasting that with the Project Galileo, Avi Loeb's project, which I wholeheartedly support. I love that mainstream science is getting in on this. That's awesome. Bring it on. That's basically all. The point of this article is not to disagree with Sean Kirkpatrick or to go against him. But he does contrast looking at past data with the new approach from Project Galileo. But everything else is very positive and supportive of Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick and his methods. So anyway, those are 2 responses, one from Representative Tim Burchett calling the whole thing a cover-up, and one from Avi Loeb just kind of backing up what Sean Kirkpatrick said. And I'm sure there will be others that will respond in the coming days. I look forward to hearing what Lou and Chris have to say, and others as well. Tom DeLong, all those guys. Jim Simivan. We'll see what Jim has to say. If any of these guys come forward talking about it, I'll let you know. And if you hear about it before I do, please let me know. Let me know. Let me know. That works too. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you guys there. And if you wanted to share this video on social media when it drops, that would be super helpful. Check out some of my other videos if you get a chance. There's plenty of them. Until next time, this is Jack with Cosmic Roads signing out.